right. Welcome to Dual Redundancy, the only podcast
Turned web show,
turned ICTV show,
turned blog,
turned drug empire, where you can hear all the latest in television and entertainment news with two hosts with exactly the same opinions. I'm one of those hosts, David Allen, and the other one is
Mike Ladue. I suppose I am the Marty Robbins to your Badfinger. Does that work here?
It does work.
The song in the beginning and the song at the end.
I guess I got what I was. I can't even talk today.
No, you can't.
Guess I got what I deserved. There we go, Mike. I'm just speechless after this episode of Breaking Bad. We are done with Breaking Bad, and boy, oh boy,
we're done? That was the finale?
That was the finale,
I thought it was coming back next season.
As a side plot in Low Winter Sun, maybe, or
I thought it was coming back as a podcast, and then a web show, and then a ICTV show.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, who knows? We might see Walter White on The Walking Dead come season 4 when it premieres in 2 weeks, because...
Oh, very true.
I mean, we're not going to bury the lead here. At the hour, Walter White is dead. There you go.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, well, I mean, they should know what they're getting themselves into here. We've been doing this thing every episode, and where we dissect the entire episode of what Vince Gilligan has cooked up, and the same is here, man. We got a big episode to go through, so we probably should just start right at the beginning. What do you say?
I'm ready.
You're ready. Okay. So we start off. We got Walt looking around for some cars that he can maybe hotwire, drive away in. Now a police car pulls up, of course, but Walt is kind of, not acting like a normal person. I feel like, he didn't brush off all the snow when he approached the car, as most people do before they get in. They make sure they have a clear visibility and all that stuff. No, he's in this little igloo type thing they can't see in, but he also may have gotten some help from above, Mike. He's seen whispering, "Just get me home, I'll do the rest." Now, who's he talking to?
Who is he? Probably God, I would assume.
I mean, is Walter White a religious man here? I didn't know, or is he just that low? I'll turn to God now at this moment because I need anything. I need a miracle.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense for Walter in this state of mind. I think he's kind of betrayed everybody else. So this is probably the one person he has left that he's hoping might be in his side, and it looks like it worked out for him.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it did work out. He does look up, and the keys literally fall from above. They fall right into his lap, and he gets to drive off. He punches the snow. He has the music playing, and he's heading off to Albuquerque. Now, on a side note, Mike, when is this actually happening for Walt? I mean, we see Walt arrive in New Hampshire. It snows on the ground. What is it? I don't know. October, November. Maybe fresh snow. Now we think it's been probably 5-6 months that he's been up in that cabin. Probably?
Yeah. Well, didn't they said it would be a few months before the next newspaper thing came up. Probably. I mean, for the time it would take for his beard to grow out and his hair to grow out that much, it must have been a while. Yeah,
so I mean, I'm just confused because there's still a lot of snow around. I mean, I'm not from New Hampshire. Obviously, we're from upstate New York, but I feel like as long as it wasn't a year, a full year for this to happen, there's still a lot of snow in this. Maybe he's really high up in the mountains here, because I would think at this point it's at least, March, April, May.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But I don't know. Who knows what's going on over there? Anyways, he makes it to a gas station. Now he's finally in the desert here. Even though he won't go inside and use the hose, he has to use the hose for water. I mean, even though technically I think he had to, pay inside, but that's besides the point. That was just a weird observation. He pretends to be the New York Times to get the address of Gretchen and Elliot. Now, at first I thought they were going to have almost no association with this finale. I thought they were just, as we said last week in the podcast, they were just a catalyst for him to go back, and do all these things. But he actually goes back into the house. He finds their giant mansion, forces them to carry the $9.7 million he still has left. Um, and he comes up with this genius plan that they are going to donate the money to his family because his family does not want the money coming from him. What do you think of all this, Mike?
I think it was really well executed in terms of directing and writing and getting Walt to this point. I think it's funny that in the end, the money's coming from Gretchen and Elliot when in the beginning it could have just come from them, and
Yeah.
we would have been spared, all of the, I mean, the awesome times, but also the bad times that Walt and company went through. Um, I think it was really the only move he could make. We saw Saul talk about it the week before in Granite State when he said, there's no way you're gonna get the money to them. It's gonna be from you, no matter how you do it. And so this way, and it might not even work. Who knows? They might figure it out, but he's got a couple years to let them finally get the money to Walter Jr. and not Holly. I guess Holly doesn't get any money.
Yeah, I
Walter
guess
Jr. gets
what
all
was
the
it? Yeah,
money.
like it was like 10 months and like 2 days. Walt Jr. is gonna get 9.7 million. Holly's just gonna, I don't know, maybe get the box of Insure that he has left over from the cabin or whatever he was going to send the money in.
She gets the Mr. Megorium
Yeah.
DVDs.
Oh, but well, yeah, she's winning. Forget. Here's a question for the audience: how many Mr. Megorium Wonder Emporium DVDs can you buy with $9.7 million?
Probably. All right, what's 9.7 times million times two? Because I'd say they probably go for about 50 cents a copy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
About 20 million.
No, I really like this plan, and I'm a little mad at Gretchen and Elliot because I feel like the whole time they were complaining about this whole thing, like this isn't gonna work, this is stupid, I'm not doing this. Why do I have to do this? It's like, first of all, he's letting you live right now, so just shut up and do this. And two, it actually makes you guys look pretty good because as Walt's saying, you just donated a bunch of money to victims, addicts of drugs and meth and stuff, and made it like a great positive thing for your image. Now you're going to give money to like this family that was like the horrendous man that was Walter White. It's only making you look good, so you might as well just do this for him here. I mean, sure, it is drug money, sure, it's blood money, as an episode was called earlier, but I think they made it out pretty good with this deal.
Now, do you think Walter Jr. would ever, I mean, we'll never know the answer to this, but do you think Walter Jr. would possibly figure it out and turn
No.
it down? You don't
No.
think he'd figure it out? You think he's that dumb?
This guy, for 61 episodes, or maybe 60 episodes, had no idea about his father, despite, his father bringing home different cars and, gambling problem that I'd never heard of, and this and that. It was just, he was hook, line, and sinker the entire time the series was going on. So he's going to get this money. He's going to buy a Denny's, and he's going to be fine. Like,
Oh, okay. I like that.
but yeah, this plan doesn't even stop here because, like as I think we mentioned, there was two hitmen, the best hitmen for only $200,000 to make sure that this happens in 10 months or whatever. But actually, it was all a bluff. It was just Skinny Pete and Badger with some lasers, and I loved that reveal when they took off the ski mask and there they were in the back of the car. Even though they felt like this was not a good thing, morality wise, they were handed that money and they're like, okay, I feel a lot better.
And that's kind of an encapsulation of the entire series, basically. I mean, money kind of
Yeah.
absolves all sins.
And they ask about or Walt asks about the meth still being made, and he realizes that Jesse is the one that's cooking it because of how pure it is and all that stuff. And they even thought Walt was the one doing the cooking to begin with. And at the sound of this, that Jesse's still around, they're all mad that because everyone thinks he's in Alaska or far away, but actually it turns out that he's in a beautiful dream sequence, making a wooden box, a little case, which was very reminiscent of, what was it? I think in the third season when Jesse was going through his like therapy sessions that he talked about making this box.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like, what do you think of all this, Mike? That we went back all the way to season 3. I guess Jesse was always supposed to be a carpenter, a little,
Woodworker.
Yeah, he was a. When we cut from this scene right to the lab, we have him with a Jesus-like beard, being chained up. Is Jesus was a carpenter too? Is there anything here, Mike?
I don't know, because Jesus died for everyone's sins and Jesse didn't.
Oh.
So maybe I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that was actually a flashback or if it was. I think it was more of a dream sequence of
Mm.
Jesse working on something that he really believed in, something that he really wanted to make, that he took great care in, and then we see him. He's actually working on meth, something that's just really not good for anybody.
Mm.
And it was a really stark contrast of seeing Jesse in at his highest high and then again at his lowest low.
Now, this is also an interesting scene because when I first watched it and I rewatched it to plan the podcast, um, I noticed that there was hardly any music. There was not. This was one of the few scenes that we see with non-diegetic sound. We have, you know, after getting chills last week with the theme song playing, this episode was just so quiet. I only counted like I think three quick moments with the score. The rest was like the songs that we were talking about at the beginning of the show. The two songs, like it was, maybe tomorrow a bullet will find me, and I guess I got what I deserve. Like all these great lines in these songs. Now, were you surprised to hear just, you know, a little bit of the score? I mean, that's one of the strongest things of this show. I mean, there's so much strong things going for this show, but I mean, it was really deathly quiet in this episode.
And that's that it did help set a tone. I think
Yeah.
definitely intentional. Everything Vince and Co have done has been completely intentional, and I didn't overtly notice it, but I'm sure subconsciously
Mm.
I picked up on it. But yeah, they did a really good job because I was on the edge of my seat, as I'm sure 10.3 million other people were,
Yeah.
and just uh, yes, I agree with you. I think it was crazy.
Mm. Now, finally, at this point, we get to the scenes that we saw in the flash forwards at the beginning of 5.1 and 5.2 or whatever of the season. Now, did you know this, Mike? I didn't know this until I read this article that Vince Gilligan has admitted that a year ago, or actually, well, before that, when they were writing this, and they saw that Walt was in New Hampshire and that he got a gun, that they had no idea where this was going.
I
Now,
did rate that.
and I just think that's amazing because technically he was on the same page as us because we're all like, where's this going? Like, what could happen here? And he was saying this exact same thing. Yet, I feel like to most people they would think that this was a grand scheme that day one Vince Gilligan knew this entire thing, and I just think that shows how strong the writing team is that they have famously said they paint themselves into corners and then they come out with logical yet exciting ways for him to get out of the corner, and this is I think just one great example.
Exactly. I think they managed to succeed where Lost and a lot of other shows that tease these mysteries
Yeah.
failed, and it's by as you said, not teasing too complicated things. I mean, the gun, the rice, and those are easy to dispose of. But when you tease, smoke monsters and where the whispers come from,
Yeah.
and Adam and Eve, and when you have so many of them, it just becomes difficult to find time to adequately pay off everything. And I think Vince and the team have been really forthcoming with all this information. They were able to say, "Hey, we didn't know where it was going, but we figured it out," and it almost makes me respect them more. It's not like they had a template, they followed it, and that's almost kind of boring. But for them to be kind of playing around as they go and really, in the article they've said, they spent hours talking about, well, we
Yeah.
didn't want him to use the gun on cops, we didn't want him to use it on Jesse, we want, so it really goes to show how much care and time and devotion and love they put into these episodes.
Yeah, I mean, they know the characters backwards and forwards, and I feel like a lot of shows, as we briefly mentioned last week with like Dexter, it's just I feel like they just don't have a handle of what the character would actually do. They're just, it's like, oh, we're making a TV show. Yeah, sure, it's a suspension of disbelief, but with this, I feel like we almost don't have to disbelieve it because it's just it seems like, okay, Walt would do that. That is a logical thing for his character to do. And like if he was a real person, I could see, even though this is a crazy story, I could see this happening.
Right.
Um, so let's see here. We're right on schedule. Lydia meets with Todd as she normally does at the cafe, and Walt sneaks up and he cock blocks Todd pretty much. He's trying to talk with Jack and the Nazis about a new process of cooking meth without using any methylamine because he needs the money. He spent all of his money, and all he needs is just shy of $1 million. That's all he really wants. Now, while there's no, I mean, it looks like a no. Like it looks like they're not gonna like work with him. Like even they say as soon as he leaves, we can't work with him. He's a loose cannon kind of thing. But the big takeaway of this scene is that Walt has used the ricin on Lydia. Now, this was one of my nitpicks with the episode. I thought this episode was great, but for me personally, I wanted how they showed Lydia getting the ricin. I felt was too on the nose.
I agree.
I like weeks ago when Huel stole the weed from Jesse. It was a sly thing that you would have to, rewind the episode, zoom in. Oh yeah, he grabbed it right there. You just missed it, kind of thing. But in this, just with the shot sequence, we saw Walt take the ricin from behind the outlet. Then we cut to Lydia looking for a packet. And then we pretty much cut to Walt in the cafe. You fast forward a little bit, we see her open it and then dump it in. I just thought it was, for a show that relies so much on people on the edge of their seats looking for details. I thought, okay, like there's no ambiguity here. Like it was too on the nose for me.
I agree. I thought part of me thought it would be a fake out, and,
Yeah.
and later in the episode we'd find out that either he took it or saved it for someone else. But in a way, I guess you could almost say this is their way of kind of paying off everybody who spent so much hard time looking. It's like, hey, you guys, you don't have to work anymore. Here you go. We're just gonna let you know right now. We're getting it out of the way. It's not the most important thing, and we dealt with it. And so I agree. I wish it had been a little more subtle, and the last final clue. But at this point, it wasn't necessary. I don't think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So I digress. We're gonna go visit Skylar now. We're gonna check out her new place. The phone rings. We have no happy family message as we used to on the answering machine, and Marie is calling her to tell her that Walt's in town. People are making death threats, prank calls, which could actually possibly be Walt, trying to throw the cops into another direction. But, in a beautiful shot composition, behind the pillar, we zoom in and boom, Walt was actually there in the place, and he tries a better goodbye than what we saw earlier with Skylar on the phone. Now, he gives the lottery ticket with the coordinates to the Steve Gomez and Hank's body, kind of as a bargaining chip, with the prosecution or whatever, to maybe give her immunity or some kind of less prison sentence. Do you think this would actually work, Mike?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like they're going to be very suspicious of where she came across this lottery ticket. Why hadn't she entered it into evidence before? And who is really who is coming after her? Is it the DEA? Did the DEA want their bodies that badly? Wouldn't Marie be the one, or even the family be the ones who want the bodies that badly? I don't know what kind of bargaining she's gonna get from it, but I would like to hope that at least it brings some peace of mind to her and to Marie. And I think really quickly with Marie, I always speculated what purple had to do with Marie, and I think it all just came together perfectly with that shot of Marie in her home, and there was nothing purple. And I think purple was probably her life with Hank, and once Hank left, everything was she had no purple left. There was nothing left of.
It's all black and bleak kind of thing now.
Right.
Like purple was the life, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think there were some other colors, but it was just no purple. Complete absence of purple. It's like she had turned that page. She had to put that behind her, and there was no strangulation. It was just a color that she couldn't even bear to look at. And I think just by Betsy Brandt didn't have to do anything in that scene. it was all, the set decorators and the writers, and it helped convey that extra level of emotion.
Yeah, I hear you. Like you were saying, like I think purple, yeah, is like this bright, colorful, very full of life color, and then if you take that away, it just mutes everything else, kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, Now, yeah, I don't see this bargaining chip as we were saying like working at all. I mean, it's like because Skylar did know. I mean, for the most part, for these 2 years or whatever, that Walt was doing these things, and like sure, like she might have been threatened, but she could have always, spoke up at least to Hank about it, or she did launder the money in the laundromat. So I think she has still a very tough road ahead of her. I don't think she's gonna get off too easy. I think once they get Heisenberg, I think, they know he's gone. They might loosen up a little bit, but I think it's still going to be a lot of hard work and pain that she's going to go through for this. Now, another big thing for this moment was that he was, he finally, I don't even know what I'm saying here. He finally reveals the truth about what he was doing all this for. For years he's always said, "Oh, I've been doing this for the family. I've been doing this for you guys or whatever." But Skylar's like, "I'm sick of hearing that," and he finally says he did this for himself. He liked it and he was good at it. He was alive. Now, my biggest question from all this, Mike, was he says he was good at it, but was he? Like, sure,
Yeah, of course he was.
he,
99.1%. He did build the
yeah,
empire.
I
He
think
was good. I mean, he wasn't perfect, but he was
yeah.
good.
See, because the only thing I'm saying is, like, sure, he was a masterful chemist, making it 99.1% pure. He took out some of the biggest cartels. But I feel like by, you know, doing all these things, by killing this one person, he just dug a bigger hole. And then, like, when he's trying to cover up that hole, another hole gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And, like, technically, he got pretty much caught in about a year. I mean, sure, a year is a long time to be doing all this crazy stuff, but it took him about a year for Hank to finally figure it out. So that's saying something, but at the same time, it's like, you know, good at being this king. I mean, you
Right.
were for a
How
little
long was
bit.
Gus king for?
Yeah, like Gus had years. You had, a couple months as the big kahuna, and I don't know. I think like once he had that power, he was, you know, as Ozymandias, just his empire just completely crumbled, and but no, yeah, he was good, maybe not great at every aspect. We can go with that maybe.
I agree.
All right, so now here we go. Buckle up, Mike, because this is going to be a crazy last climax here. Walt arrives at the compound of the Nazis, and instantly I was already worried because we see him earlier in the episode building something that he's going to use inside the car or something. At that time we didn't know what was going on, and at first I thought at this little checkpoint before the gate something was going to happen. Either they're going to check the trunk and we're going to find some kind of bomb or whatever, or we're going to check under the hood, especially after Jack's associate there was saying, like, oh, what model of car is this, but somehow they get by the tough security. He drives in, parks, any way he feels like it, and he tries to talk business with Jack, but instantly this isn't going to happen. Um, you know, he's about to be shot, and he yells, you promised me you would kill Jesse, and now he's your partner. This angers Jack. Now, like, how dare he call him a liar? But isn't Walt right here? Isn't Jack a liar? I mean, he did promise to kill Jesse, and he went against that word. They shook hands. Everything was fine. Clearly, that's not true. If Jack's gonna kill him, Jack is a liar. Should he be this mad?
Um, I agree that he is a liar, but that's his character. If anybody calls him out, Hitler thought he was doing great things
Yeah.
too, and so it makes sense that Jack thinks he's doing any decision he makes. I'm sure he's justified in his head, and so
Hmm.
by keeping Jesse alive, he's probably saying, well, I'm giving him a fate worse than death, so I'm doing the right thing. but it's not the agreement Walt made, and so I'm sure Walt was able to kind of pick up upon that Nazi white power mentality and manipulate him into getting Jesse into the room with him.
Yeah, I mean, just for me, I feel like Jack was always kind of, while he was this scumbag, he was always kind of a like a businessman, a gentleman in that regards. You know, you can even see it with Todd of how like, you know, awkwardly nice he was. And I feel like Jack, they always would shake on things. You know, Jack was like, you shake my hand. It's like a gentleman's agreement. You know, I'll do my end of the business, you do your end kind of, situation. And I just feel like Jack, yeah, like you took 70 million from him and probably more to kill Jesse, and you didn't. And so I was kind of like, you know what, Jack, Walt does have you there a little bit. As you were saying, it is worse than death to be forced to do all this, to be chained up. But like, he shouldn't be as mad as he's making it out to be. But what can you do?
He's not going to act rationally because he's a crazy Nazi bad guy.
Exactly. Now, Jesse finally arrives to the compound, in the living room, and I think at this point, before this, Walt was going to kill him. I think Walt was going to kill Jesse, but he sees Jesse with the Jesus beard, the chains, ragged, and at this point, he jumps him. He pushes him to the ground, and this was all part of his elaborate plan to kill the Nazis. And boom, out of the trunk, we see something. I think Jesse, I think he mentions in season 2 about building a robot, and Walt finally takes that advice, builds a robot with a machine gun, and just obliterates all the Nazis. Thankfully, he had the perfect length of the room figured out, where it goes from wall to wall, and all the Nazis are just gone. We got Todd on the ground. He was originally trying to pull Walt and Jesse apart, and as Todd looks up after the wreckage, and we see he's about to tell Mr. White something. We'll never know what it is. Maybe it's like, oh, your lights are on, the trunk's open. You might want to take care of that, Mr. White. Jesse comes from behind and strangles him. Now, Mike, were you happy to see that Jesse is the one that gets to kill Todd?
Of course. I mean, that's the only way it had to be. Todd caused him so much trauma, and Jesse, that neck snap sound was just brutal. But it's hard to root for death or just see Jesse have to kill anyone else. But I'm pretty sure that Jesse needed that psychologically. Oh, telephone.
Yeah. So Jesse has killed Todd, and it's very interesting to note that in season 1, I thought this was an interesting idea. Season 1 ended with Walt having to kill an associate that Jesse brings into the business by a bike lock from behind, right at, strangling him from the neck. Now, season 5 ends with Jesse killing an associate that Walt actually brings in from behind with some sort of lock as well. And I just thought that was probably unplanned, but it was like a nice little, there were so many references to past episodes and all these things coming full circle that I think is just an interesting note to bring up.
I agree. Very cool.
All right, so now we got Jack here. He's somehow still alive. That one bullet or whatever he got wasn't enough. Jack tries to bargain with Walt. I got the location of the money. I have all this stuff. No. Before he takes one last puff, similar to Gus straightening his tie, and boom, headshot. Walt doesn't care. He finally got rid of all these Nazis, all these people that were causing so much pain and trouble for him. And now it's just Jesse and Walt. Now, Walt pushes his gun to Jesse, and he picks it up. Did you see at any point that Jesse was going to actually shoot Walt?
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I want to say no because in the end he didn't, and he talked himself out of it. But I think he was done killing, and I think when he realized that it's what Walt wanted, that he knew that that's the opposite of what he wanted. I think if Walt was begging for his life, Jesse would have done it just to spite Walt. But when it became so clear, and again, once he saw Walt had already been wounded. He wanted Walt to have to face his own consequences.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest things for Jesse, like the deciding factor in this, was Walt says, to Jesse, "You want this," and Jesse was just like, "You know what? No, I'm done taking your orders. I'm done of your lies. I want you to say that you actually want this, because you're the one." Like he's putting the finger on him, kind of thing. If you want it so badly, do it yourself. I'm not, taking your orders anymore around anymore. I'm done with you. Um, and I mean that's how we leave it. Jesse puts down the gun. He leaves the compound living room area, and as he leaves, Walt gets a call from Lydia, and yep, she's dying from the ricin that we saw earlier, and it's now we have another parent that dies. So a kid, like Brock, I mean, kind of like Mike Hermantraut's granddaughter, another kid without a parent. Is that some kind of? I mean, even Walter Jr. doesn't have a father now. Is this some kind of like theme in Breaking Bad universe of, Jesse was never really involved with his parents, left on bad terms? Is this any kind of theme about the father son, the parent to child dynamic?
Could be, it could say, if you get into bad uh, wrongdoings, then you're not the only one who suffers. There's other people, immediate family and a community and other people that are gonna pay, and it's almost like a cautionary tale. Jesse lost his whole relationship with his family, and he was young, and then the older people, they go off and their kids are in trouble. So yeah, I definitely think it has some type of thematic resonance throughout, the series, and something probably Vince wanted to convey.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe, hopefully not, but maybe Vince and his upbringing had some kind of family thing as well. I mean, that's writers usually draw from something in their life. I'm gonna assume that Vince didn't have a father that was a drug kingpin in Albuquerque, New Mexico, but I can only assume. Who knows? He knows a lot about this meth industry, so who knows? Um, Anyways, Jesse finally gets to flee. He bursts through that chain fence. He's laughing. He's excited. He's heading for his new Need for Speed movie. He's going. Now, what do we think is next for Jesse? Is he going to get Brock? Is he just driving as fast as he can out of here? What do we think is going to happen?
I would like to think he's going to Brock.
Mm.
I would like to think that, and maybe that's too hard for him. Maybe he's just got to get out completely. Maybe just go to Alaska or go be a carpenter. We'll never know. But we know our very last shot. All we can go off is that he is just
He's happy,
maniacally happy.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to think he and Brock move up to Alaska and live out the rest of their days really happily. But we'll never know.
Yeah, I'm interested to kind of wonder when Andrea was shot in relation to everything else, like time wise. Like how long has it only been like maybe a day or something where Brock could, feasibly go to school and then come back home? What has Brock been doing? Has he been in the care of someone else, and it makes it really easy for Jesse to just, kind of come in? Like if it's at some kind of...
He's probably with Andrea's mother, who we saw a little bit in season 2, because I mean the brother is gone, Andrea was gone, but we did get introduced to the mother who, would take Brock and drop him off. I don't remember if she passed or anything, but I mean that would be my safest guess. Or he's in some type of foster home that hopefully Jesse could have a say. But Jesse Pinkman, is his name in the headlines as bad news too? Probably.
Yeah, I mean, like that's what I'm wondering too, because like I don't see Jesse probably getting caught, but then everyone thought he was in Alaska or he was dead. I mean, it has been quite a bit of time since Walt has been missing and stuff, and Jesse did come forward, so maybe he got some sort of immunity kind of thing. Probably not everything was gone, wiped away when he came to the DEA to talk, but maybe he got something, to help him out, so he could take Brock. I don't know. It's gonna be. unless I think Brock is with, the mother, that Jesse can kind of like steal Brock. I mean, I don't see like a foster care place being like, yeah, sure, you were a drug second in command of this empire kind of thing, and your associate was Walter White. Like that's going to be tough to kind of sell.
Yeah, and maybe maybe it's not meant for Jesse to take on a kid. He's never really been the best kind of father figure to anybody, and we've seen what a lot of the father figures on Breaking Bad have been like. So maybe he's just gotta, Walt's dream was this huge empire and all this money and everything, and Jesse's dream is, to carve wood and to just live alone. And so maybe he's mature enough to know now that's all that he should really be responsible for.
All right. Well, Jesse's off to bigger and better things, hopefully. Now, Walt's still at the lab. He's been shot, and we see it. We see the wound in between a jacket of beige, blue, and green, which I thought, obviously we've talked about three very important colors to, especially Walt in the show. Those were his colors that he would always wear throughout the series: blue, crystal meth, all that stuff. Now, at first, we see the bloody hand slip from the equipment, and at first I thought, is that all we're going to see? Like, are we going to see kind of like him either, like, did he run as soon as he, like, grabbed the equipment and, like, that's where the slip came, or did he fall to the ground? Well, before I could even think that, we see him lying on the ground, and now the camera spirals up, very much like with the pilot, with the cancer diagnosis, the crawl space episode, all the other times where it's been the camera from above, and Baby Blue starts playing, the cops come in, and we cut to black. Mike, what do you think of this ending? That's it for Walter White. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it ugly?
It is an ending. I was satisfied with the episode in general, but I'm still confused as to the legacy and the state of Walter White's soul. Because he did so many terrible things.
Yeah.
And he tried in this last episode especially to make them right. And I think he died with a sense of satisfaction with himself. I think he died in his own mind as a hero. And, he left the money for his kids.
Yep.
He helped Skylar out with Hank. He let Jesse live. He died to do all these things. Is that enough? Did he get enough justice? Is death on his own terms enough justice for Walter White? Based on the things he said. And in a way, I think it is. In a way, I think Walt has always been our hero, even though he's an anti-hero. Everybody's always wanted to see Walt get out of things. And everyone's always kind of been rooting for Walt. And the tide did kind of turn this season. So, I mean, immediately when it ended, I was conflicted, and I didn't even know what to think. I knew I was happy, and I knew I liked it, but I didn't know if I liked specifically Walt's final fate. And I think, with time, I think it's okay, for him to be the hero in his own mind, because we can judge him however we choose.
Yeah, I think I agree here. Now, Walt's, biggest thing, even though he said he did this for himself, kind of thing, I think, day one, the goal was to provide money for the family. Check that off. He did that. He got, made Jesse free. He did all these things that, like, yeah, he did bad things, but he kind of fixed most of them to make sure he didn't leave everyone else in completely terrible situations. And it's an interesting note that, in the first episode, he's given, like, was it 2 years, like, to live kind of thing, or maybe it was a year, but he's like, you got 1 to 2 years left, Walter. And even though he didn't die of cancer, he did die, 2 years pretty much to the day when he found out his cancer diagnosis. And, I think that's like a fitting thing. He knew either way, unless he could somehow completely beat the cancer, that he was going to die anyways. So he went out his way. The cancer didn't take him. The cops didn't take him. As Frank Sinatra says, he did it my way. Or, well, not Frank's way, but Walt's way. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Yep.
So, while that was the ending, there's been some articles this week, of course, so many about possible alternate endings, things that weren't tied up. I'm gonna go through these kind of a little bit here, see our thoughts on them. Mike, you originally mentioned some of these earlier. We had some alternate endings that I found in the Hollywood Reporter this week that Vince Gilligan was, talking about with the writers. And I'll just read some of these off, and you think any of these could possibly work. We got Walt uses the gun on the police. Walt maybe had a new wife, job in a new life for a little bit. Skylar kills herself, or even heads with Walt with the disappearer to someplace else. Do you think any of these could have worked?
The only I think could have worked would be Skylar killing her. I believe it said slitting her wrists in the bathroom or something, because I think it makes it very like Macbeth. You know what I mean? Where she's the Lady Macbeth, but that might have even been too on the nose for them. That both of them sinned, both of them did wrong and brought it upon themselves. They both had the option to get out, and both of them didn't. When Skylar was flipping her coin and at the four corners, and she kept she forced herself to stay. She's not a blameless victim here, and so the guilt could have taken her. But I think it was smart of them to leave her fate kind of up in the air, and yeah, I think the other ones are all kind of ridiculous, and I'm glad that they didn't go with them.
Oh yeah, I'm glad he didn't use the gun on the police. Even though Walter, has done some terrible things. Yeah, I don't see him killing, kind of really completely innocent, good people like law enforcement that are only doing their job. Yeah, I'm glad that Walt was alone and didn't have a new wife, a new job, anything up in that cabin, because I really just think that is what, made him kind of think about all of his actions. He was almost like in a little timeout, with himself there, like, what am I going to do? How am I going to fix everything? And that's what led to this finale, was him, atoning for all of his sins in a way. Now, I'm going to bring up a little beef I have with another news outlet. Okay, so now Entertainment Weekly this week has had so many articles just really trying to capitalize on, the Breaking Bad clicks and all this stuff. And they posted this one article. At first I thought it was a joke, but then this is the same magazine that live tweeted plot points from the East Coast airing of the finale. They were saying, like, I'm so glad I completely shut off my phone, because even just scrolling through, there's a thing with spoilers, at the very least, you wait until the next day. Sure, it's a big event, a lot of people watch it, and for a series finale, you should be probably watching live or as soon as you can, but they were tweeting things like, oh, Walter was just shot. Oh, Jesse escapes. Where's he going? Like, crazy things like that. And I feel like during the East Coast airing, they need to scale it back, especially for a news outlet like that is followed by so many. But
yeah, that's
anyways,
really frustrating. Yeah, I too went Twitter silent and Facebook silent. I got two texts from people. One from one friend saying, "Are you crying even a little bit?" after it ended, and then another friend said, "That was perfect." And so I knew I was in for a good ride. Yeah,
it's one of those things where it's just like I almost didn't even want to hear if it was good, if it was bad, if it was whatever. I just wanted to be completely blank and not hear anything. And thankfully, I made it out pretty good here. But anyways, this article, I mean, I'm sure they were kidding, but I want to bring up some of these questions that they're really pressing issues to them. Just gave you a sense of the problems that they had. The first question, Mike, for you is, did Donald Margolis, which was Jane's father, survive his suicide attempt? We don't know.
I thought he died.
According to Entertainment Weekly, this is a loose thread that Vince Gilligan failed at, tying up.
I'm not worried about it. I mean, my assumption is yes or no. He did not survive.
All right. He died. What about Walt's refusal to ask his mother for money or even tell her she has cancer? Did they ever have a falling out?
I guess.
Uh, but here's what happened to that poor kid from Peekaboo. The whole time
Aww.
during the episode of the finale, I was like, "This is all garbage. Where's that kid from Peekaboo?" Um, and finally, um, that's when Don ordered Gus's partner to be killed. He announced that he was sparing Gus because I know who you are, but understand you're not in Chile anymore. That's the most we ever got of Gus's pass. Um, Now, what exactly was he doing in Chile prior to 1986? I'm not leaving this podcast until you tell me, Mike, what he was doing.
I mean, these are so ridiculous. I mean,
Yeah.
I understand these are, quote unquote loose threads, but any other
Yeah.
show had so many other, and shows so many, not even mysteries, but just things of information. You can deduce, he was doing bad things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't need to know. It would have been cool to know, yeah. But, I don't regret a single, Gus storyline they went through. And
Mm-hmm.
even getting that, flashback to Gus, I think we know enough. We know enough to be satisfied. Um, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the whereabouts and the happenings of every single person I ever met either. So,
Right.
I think Walt is fine. Like it's again, he saw the people he needed to see. He said goodbye to Skylar. He got to see Holly. He saw Walter Jr. Like he saw his family. He made up with he saw Gretchen and Elliot even from season 1. He saw everyone he needed to see. That was it.
Right. And what do you think about the Walter Jr.? For him not to get any lines, just to walk, and walk into the house and Walt just watch on set. I mean, I think it was an interesting decision to say the least. Not to have any interaction, but I guess at that point he couldn't. Walter Jr. had his say, and he told him to kill
Yeah.
himself. So I guess it was just a sad walk, for Walter Jr. to
Yeah.
never have that closure.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. It's just like Walt knew when he was looking that no matter what I say, no matter what I do, Walt Jr. is still going to want me to, to do that to myself. And then Walt Jr. is, again, like he's like, my father is just a terrible man and I don't want anything to do with him. And it's just, yeah, no matter what either one could say, that's it. Walter Jr. is not going to have this father figure anymore. He's going to be the man of the household. And, that's just the way it is. Like, as you were saying earlier, maybe it's a thing to show that your actions have consequences too, whether it's your family or friends. And there's just some things that you just can't take back. There's some things you can't redo.
I agree.
All right, Mike, that's it. That's a wrap. This is it. This is it for not only Breaking Bad, but our Breaking Bad weekly podcast recaps.
That is very sad.
Very sad. Now, I want to make sure we thank everyone who followed us along on this crazy adventure. We laughed, we cried, we had a okay time. At least I know I had a great time, Mike. I had a great time.
Me too.
All right. It was so great, I think, because of John Berwick making sure these actually worked out. As we've said, one's on the East Coast, one's on the West Coast here. And, to do a podcast like this and put it all together into a coherent podcast is just, thanks so much again to John Berwick doing this just for free here.
Thank you, John.
Now, as Breaking Bad wraps up, Dual Redundancy is still going to be going here. I have some ideas still to run by Mike, and I'm sure he has some for me. We are not going away. I think we're going to take a little 1 week, at least, break, get recuperated, to think about what we just saw. And then I'm sure we're going to have a lot of stuff going on in television, entertainment, news, maybe a weekly recap of what you see on TV, the latest in, some in and out points. We'll go back to basics here and we'll get you that information. But how are we going to do that? How are you going to keep up with all that? Well, that's going to be on social media. You got Facebook, you got Twitter at Dual Redundancy, the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Dual Redundancy, which, by the way, I'm almost done putting season 2, that was our ICTV season, on YouTube, so you can watch all those interviews and clips and all that great stuff. And finally, we have the blog, dualredundancy.blogspot.com, where we have all the podcasts posted, a lot of articles written, some some great things on there. So I think that is it, Mike. I got one last confession for you.
Hit me.
I've said I do this podcast for you and our fans, but I lied. I do this for me. I liked it. I was good at it. I was alive. That's all I gotta say.
I would do the crazy Jesse laugh or something as I drive away from this podcast.
Yeah. Mike, you're finally escaped. You could drive off now. Right, Mike. Thanks again for doing this, and thanks to everyone who listened. That's it, guys. That was Breaking Bad.
Sing the theme song.
I can't even do it. It's in my head. You can't. That's like a weird instrument. I don't even know what that is, but fix it in post. All right. Okay.
Stop.
Yeah, I'm hitting stop too.